mentioned that the biotechnological approach to sustainable agriculture and food security. So, the very important thing when we talk about sustainable agriculture and food security is why there is a current need to talk about it. So, when you say sustainable agriculture, we are basically referring to farming systems which are designed to meet present food demands, and it should also safeguard the capacity of future generations to meet theirs. So, when we just keep on using it without thinking that whether that particular stuff is going to be available for the upcoming generation, then it is going to be somewhere exhausted, and the same is going to be an issue in the long run. I think someone is having the mic on, so request the participants if they can mute themselves. So it emphasizes ecological integrity, efficient resource utilization, and even we are also making it socially equitable for people. Sustainable and how it is different from conventional agriculture. So if you look at conventional system, we are basically more dependent on intensive chemical farming, sustainable agriculture. Deepak sir, can you please ask the participants to mute themselves? Because I think it's so. Talking about the conventional system and how it is more important that we move towards the sustainable practices to make more diversification in uh, we also go for conservation village and biological pest control rather than chemical pest. These approaches reduce environmental degradation and the product also enhance the long value. So when we active sustainability in agriculture is achieved when the cycles within balanced. It's not one part is having too much of advantage and the other one is and maximizing balance not change the environment where we are living. Okay, and we know the environment is continuously changing and there is a lot of issues which are coming on day to day basis, so we need to deal with it. We cannot change it, but we need to make the crops more resilient so they can withstand changes in the climate and they can also bear the stress which is coming from the biological pressure. And the second most important part for the today's topic will be food security. So food security is defined by the FAO as the condition in which all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. So each word is very important: physical, social, and economic access. So, and what they are getting should be sufficient, safe, and nutritious. So the food should not lose its nutritional value, should be safe to consume, and should be in a good amount. It should not be in a reduced quantity. It should be sufficient to serve. However, climate change threatens this trajectory. So, current projections are looking into this, indicate that by 2050, global food demand will increase by around 70%, driven by the population growth and changing dietary preferences. So, right now people are having more preferences that they only go for some specific categories of food. They are not having a diversified diet in their plate. So, however, climate change threatens this trajectory, resulting from erratic rainfall, rising temperatures, and extreme weather conditions. They are predicted to yield crops by around 25%. So, the Global Hunger Index reports more than 8 million individuals worldwide suffer from chronic hunger. While malnutrition remains a persistent challenge, particularly micronutrient deficiency, which is also a very most common example of what we see when we talk about nutrient deficiency is iron deficiency. These statistics are giving us a picture that the activity in the
हाँ मैडम. हाँ,
hello,
everything fine.
is the slides visible,
हाँ
sir?
हाँ हाँ.
Okay. So, sustainable agriculture, when we talk about the sustainability practices, conventional agricultural practices, while effective in boosting yields during the Green Revolution, they have led to the long term ecological consequences, such as soil erosion. The water level has gone very down, and there is loss of biodiversity as well. So, to look into these challenges and come up with some good practices which will try to solve and give us some good some better ways to tackle these problems. We look for sustainable part of it, which must therefore balance the three critical dimensions when we talk about productivity to feed billions. So we should be able to produce in bulk. Environment should be protected so that the ecosystem is getting preserved, and there should be social equity to ensure affordability and accessibility to food. Just producing it is not enough. If I am selling something at a cost which majority of the people cannot bear it, then it is of no use. So cost is important, and it should reach to the every nook and corner of the globe. Then only we will talk about that, yes, it is accessible to almost everyone. So biotechnology here comes as an emerging area which gives us transformative solutions by offering precision tools that can enhance the crop resilience, reduce reliance on chemical inputs, and improve the nutritional values. Like I already talked, that there is an issue with micronutrient deficiency. We can take the help of biotechnology and try to improvise the nutritional quality, and we can also inculcate some fortifications. For example, we microbial biotechnology can restore the soil health through biofertilizers instead of chemical fertilizers, while genetic engineering can produce stress tolerant and nutrient rich crops. So it gives us two very important aspects over here. When we talk about stress tolerant, we are trying to deal with the environmental calamities, change in the climate. And when we say nutrient rich crops, we are trying to address the challenge of malnutrition or micronutrient deficiency, where we will make certain particular nutrients rich in that particular crops. Digital literacy in the field of biotechnology through AI and IoT enables precision farming that optimizes the resource use. So now, since we have great technologies in hand, it can help us optimize the way we are using our farmland. So the tri-pillar biotechnological framework, which I'll be talking about in the few coming slides, will basically focus on three major aspects. The first one being the microbial and the environmental biotechnology. The second being the genetic engineering and the molecular tools which could be used to enhance it. Digital and precision agriculture. So the first thing, which is the first pillar, as we said, that is microbial and environmental biotechnology, it harnesses the natural capabilities of microorganisms to enhance agricultural productivity in an eco-friendly manner, because we are using a live organism. We are not dealing with something which is not natural. So biofertilizers such as nitrogen fixing rhizobium, phosphate solubilizing bacteria, and mycorrhizal fungi, they are known to improve the nutrient availability to plants, reducing the dependence on chemical fertilizers. Similarly, we also have biopesticides. This is very new concept where we derived from microbial agents. So one of the very famous microbe which is used for biopesticides is Bacillus thuringiensis, or fungal antagonists are also used, which provide targeted pest control without harming beneficial microorganisms on the environment. So, when we talk about no chemical uses and all those insecticides, what happens? There are microbes which are good for the crop, but they kill all the microbes, irrespective of whether they are good or harmful. Those insecticides and chemical fertilizers are going to act on each one of them. But when go for biopesticides, they are mostly targeting the harmful bacteria and harmful microorganisms. They don't destroy the good microflora, which also helps in metabolism, which also helps in maintaining the soil fertility. So beyond single strands, microbial consortia carefully design communities of bacteria and fungi. They are working in synergy to restore the fertility of soil. It also suppresses the harmful pathogens and further enhance the growth of the plants. So these biological inputs are basically representing a sustainable alternative to synthetic agrochemicals, aligning with the principles of green chemistry and circular bioeconomy. So microbes are here helping us in maintenance of the soil health. Healthy soils are basically the foundations of sustainable agriculture, and microbial biotechnology is actually playing a central role in maintaining this integrity. So soil microflora, if we look into, they drive the nutrient cycling. So they are well known to take part in different parts in the different aspects of the nutrient cycle, decomposition of organic matter and releasing essential elements. So some complex elements will be there, and these microbes will help us in simplifying them into the essential ones like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, which could be easily absorbed in plant available forms. This microbial activity enhances soil structure, water retention, and resilience against erosion. So, if we maintain the quality of the soil, and how we can maintain the quality of the soil? By making sure that we have good microflora in the soil. So, if the soil has a good structure of microflora, it helps in the soil maintenance of the structure, and it also makes sure that the uh, water levels are maintained. The soil can hold the water. Otherwise, what happens? The water, if even if you try to water the land, after a few minutes you will see it will be dried up because the water retention capacity is lost. So this microbes will also help us make sure that the water is retained by the soil. Furthermore, microbial systems enable waste valorization, converting agricultural residues and organic waste into biofertilizers, biogas, and compost. So there are multiple ways we are going to take help, and instead of dumping them that as if they are of no use, we can take multiple um, products out of it. For example, if we look into the lignocellulose degrading fungi and bacteria, they transform crop residues into nutrient rich amendments, closing the loop between waste generation and resource recovery. So, the waste which is generated is now giving rise to a new resource. Such processes are going to reduce the environmental burden, and also it will also try to cut the pollution levels, while it is also helping us maintain the soil enrichment levels, embodying the principles of sustainability and circular bioeconomy. So, this is how we can utilize the microflora to maintain the best quality of the soil, and also to minimize the environmental pollution. The one way is biofertilizers, where we are using living microorganisms applied to seeds, soil, or plant surfaces to enhance the nutrient availability and uptake by those. They replace the synthetic fertilizers by naturally enriching soil fertility. And there are different types of biofertilizers which we see in the market. The first category being the nitrogen fixing bacteria, the rhizobium, azotobacter, which are going to basically help in the supply of nitrogen to the plants. Phosphate solubilizing microbes, they release bound phosphorus. Other than that, we have mycorrhizal fungi. It improves the water and nutrient absorption. Benefits are there for these. Like they reduce the dependence on chemical fertilizers, so less chemicals are used, because whatever you say, chemicals are not natural sources. Improves soil fertility and structure, and also increases the microbial diversity and the microbial load in the soil, which further gives us a better crop yield and a sustainable practice, because whatever we are now using is natural in source, so they are more sustainable compared to chemical ones. The next is the biopesticides, which are derived from natural organisms again. And those organisms can either be from the category of bacteria, fungi, viruses, or plant extracts. They control pests and pathogens, and they are eco friendly in nature compared to the ones which are chemical in nature. So here we see microbial biopesticides, the basic example being Bacillus thuringiensis. It produces toxins against insect larvae. So it is acting as a insecticide. And the next one is biochemical pesticides, where plant extracts of pheromones that disrupt the pest behavior and they cannot further reproduce and grow on. The RNA based biopesticides is the third category, which talks about the emerging tools targeting pest gene expression. So, basically, they are trying to make them uh, resist. They are not going to be going along with the particular crops. They will resist them for going and binding there. So the benefits for biopesticides include the target specific action without harming beneficial microbes. So this is very important. We are trying to kill organisms which are insecticides or insects or something else or pests, but don't want to harm the beneficial microorganisms, because when we use other alternatives, no, they are actually harming the beneficial microorganisms. As a result, the quality of the crop and plant is also going to be compromised. They reduce pesticide residues in food and environment, because end of the day it is toxic for our body. It is not a natural alternative. Delay resistance development compared to chemical pesticides. So when we say chemical pesticides, is since it's an in unnatural form, it's not a natural alternative. After a point, the all these insects and pests will start having resistance. They will not be susceptible to the particular drug or to the particular chemical. So it's, if we go for natural sources like biopesticide, then the chances will be much more less, and there will be delayed in the process of resistance. So coming to the next part where we talk about development of stress tolerant high yield crops, genetic engineering is basically a way which can help us get a crop which is more which is modified to fit into the requirements as of now. So gene insertion, so how we do genetic engineering, there are different ways of doing it. The first way is gene insertion or modification. So you want some specific characteristic property into a particular crop or a plant, you need to introduce a particular gene. Or you want to uh, take out something from it, you need to remove that particular gene out of it. So this is called gene editing or gene insertion or modification. So you can introduce or edit genes that regulate stress responses such as transcription factor, protection from osmosis like osmoprotectant pathways, or ion transporters. So this will vary upon what you are wanting at the end. Do you want a climate resilient? Accordingly, you are going to choose it. If you want to put a temperature resistant plant, so you are going to work with those genes which regulate the temperature function. Similarly, apart from insertion and modification, we have one more tool which is called CRISPR-Cas9 and base editing. It's a precision tool which allows targeted modification of stress-related genes without introducing foreign DNA. So in the previous one, we were inserting something new, but here we are doing some target modification and we are not introducing a foreign DNA, reducing regulatory concerns rather. To help us get a better variant, transgenic crops is another variety where incorporating genes from other species, example bacterial genes for drought tolerance, it will give us a novel trait. So here the particular crop can withstand drought conditions. It, when we talk about genetic engineering approaches to yield, stress tolerant, and high yield crops, we are basically looking into multiple aspects. For one, to ensure stable food yield and under different conditions like stress conditions, climate changes, environmental calamities, reduce reliance on chemical inputs. So usage of chemical in like chemical you can say molecules or chemical stuffs is less, and supports food security, because if my yield is high, uh, I can have an affordable and accessible solution for a huge number of people throughout the globe. But if my food is and yield is very low, I cannot, suffice the need of each and every one in this particular world. So it's very important that we are capable of producing as much as it is required. So we'll come to some real world advancements in stress tolerant crops development. So I've kept some examples over here. The first one being the drought tolerant maize. So there are different varieties of maize which has been engineered with transcription factors. So there is a specific factor called DREB. So what does this DREB do? It's a dehydration responsive element binding protein. It, which is activated on cascade of stress responsive genes. So these genes enhance the water use efficiency by regulating the osmoprotectants like proline and trehalase. It also stabilizes the cell membranes and improves root architecture. So as a result, what happens? This particular maize can maintain productivity when there is scarcity of water. So since it's an osmoprotectant and it can stabilize the cell membrane for a longer time period, even if we don't water the crops for a longer time period, or there is a situation where rain is not there, there's a scarce of water, still they will be able to give us the cropping, reducing crop failure in arid and semi-arid regions where the water levels are very down or there is hardly any scope of having the water. The next example is salt tolerant rice. So rice plants have been modified with genes here such as HKT1, 5, NHX1. What they do, they regulate sodium ion transport and compartmentalization. So these genes prevent toxic sodium accumulation in plant tissues by either excluding sodium from the xylem or sequestering it into the vacuole. So we all know plant have vacuoles where they keep it acts as a storage place. So any extra sodium, it will be shuttled to the vacuoles. So this allows the rice to thrive in saline soils, a growing problem due to irrigation practices and coastal soil salinization. So we know right now the salt concentration is very high, which is also affecting the yield of the crops. So now the variety is actually a salt tolerant variety of the rice, which expands cultivable land and secure yields in challenging environments. The next category is heat tolerant wheat. So wheat has been engineered to express heat shock protein genes, which stabilizes protein and cellular structure under high temperature. So if you know chemistry, you must be knowing that change in temperature has a huge effect on biomolecules. Especially proteins, they get denatured when we increase the temperature beyond 60 and so. So heat shock proteins are basically molecular chaperones, which are going to prevent this process of denaturation at a higher temperature. Okay, so this ensure proper enzyme function, photosynthetic efficiency, and grain filling even under extreme heat waves. So instead of burning the crops in those high temperatures of 50 degrees, 60 degrees Celsius, still these HSPs are going to make sure that the crop is not affected. They will make sure that the proteins are not getting denatured because their job is to act as a chaperone, prevent the denaturation of protein and aggregation. Heat tolerant wheat varieties are crucial for sustaining productivity in regions where there is increased rise in global temperatures. Now, coming to the next aspect of it, because I talked about food security, and one important part is, nutritional requirement. So, biofortification for nutritional security plays a very crucial role over here. It refers to the process where we try to enhance the nutritional quality of food crops. How we are going to do that? By genetic engineering, molecular breeding, or agronomic practices. So these could be the three different ways anyone can be used to improvise the nutritional quality. Unlike post-harvest fortification, which where what is post-harvest fortification? It is adding nutrients during food processing stage. Okay, biofortification is building nutrition directly into the crop. We are not giving it from outside. Food processing means I'm trying to put the thing from outside onto the food. But when I say it's a biofortification, I am trying to instill it into the crop itself. It is not supplied from outside, ensuring that the benefits reach consumers naturally and in a more sustainable manner. Okay. So how do we ensure what are the different mechanisms of biofortification? It includes the first one, as already talked, genetic engineering can insert genes that regulate nutrient biosynthesis. Example is carotenoid pathway genes in golden rice. It's already worked upon it. Molecular breeding, where selection and crossbreeding of varieties with naturally higher nutrient content. Nutrient transport enhancement, we're modifying genes that control uptake and storage of minerals like iron and zinc. Molecular diagnostics are used for plant disease management because when we talk about crops, we also need to know how to ensure that this particular disease is there and then how can we manage its control. So molecular diagnostic helps empower precision agriculture by combining speed, accuracy, and predictive values. This shift plant disease management from reactive to a proactive stage, aligning with sustainable farming practices and global food security goals. The techniques used are PCR. which amplifies pathogen DNA for rapid detection of it. Other than that, we have a quantitative PCR, which measures the pathogen load, like how many numbers of particular pathogen are present, allowing much more earlier diagnosis and monitoring of infection severity. So it also gives us an idea how fast the infection can spread among the crops. Okay, because if we can check the load in different sections of it, we know that how fast it is going to travel. There are a few equations which will help us in tracking the spread of the particular thing. Enzyme-linked immunosorbent assays, which detects the pathogen proteins or antigens with high specificity. NGS, which gives us comprehensive profiling of pathogens, and it's also give us if some new virulent strains have emerged. Because when we talk about microorganisms, it is not going to be the same microbe from generation to generation. It keeps on mutating, and then this virulence will also change. The infectivity and severity will also change. So, molecular diagnostics in agriculture also has a lot of applications. As already talked, it gives us rapid identification, detection of viral, bacterial, and fungal infections before visible symptoms appear. Resistance gene monitoring tracks the presence and evolution of resistance gene in pathogens. Pathogen evolution studies can be done, which helps us understand how frequently the mutations are happening and what is the new emergence of new virulent strains, how many virulent strains have come upon. Field diagnostics. So portable PCR and biosensor kits are also there available, which allows on-site testing, reducing delays in intervention, and it is more accessible, it is more easy to operate. Impact, if we look into the impact of molecular diagnostics, is gives us timely intervention. So within a short time period, we know what is the root cause. If my crops are not surviving, then I can get a timely intervention about it. Reduced crop losses, if I can find out what is the reason, I can look for solution, and then as a result I can minimize the losses. Minimize use of pesticides, improved food security. And if my food yield is increasing, that means I'm going to have a improvised food security as well. The next important aspect is waste valorization in agriculture. It, it is a very important concept which transforms agricultural residues, food waste, and organic byproducts into valuable resources, closing the loop in the farming system. So, what is coming out is again going back. So, maybe it's a waste which has come out, but that waste is used up as a reactant, and it is going to give us a product which is going to be a valuable resource. So instead of treating crop residues, animal manure, or food processing waste as pollutants, the field of biotechnology is so advanced that it enables their conversion into different aspects like biofertilizers, biogas, compost, and bio-based chemicals. For example, lignocellulosic crop residues can be broken down by fungi and bacteria to give bioethanol, while anaerobic digestion of manure produces renewable biogas and nutrient-rich digestate. So we can think of that something which was of no use previously, now we are adding on something and making it a more better and useful product. This approach not only reduces environmental pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, but it also generates economic value for farmers, lowering the input cost and creating new bio enterprise opportunities. So this is how, if I look into the field of valorization, how it works. So we have production, manufacturing, and then residue. Uh, so here, whatever we are using, it goes into this valorization, and that residue can further come in and can give us anything like an environmental remediation, ethanol production, and so on. Biopesticide chemicals, biopesticides can also be produced from it. Green chemistry for sustainable farming is the next important aspect, where green chemistry complements Waste valorization by designing agricultural inputs and processes that are inherently eco-friendly. Principles such as atom economy, renewable feed, and energy efficient enzymatic catalysis guides the development of biodegradable fertilizers and biopesticides, which are further going to minimize toxicity, residue buildup. For instance, the use of microbes, their microbial enzymes, are going to help us in replacing the harsh chemical reactions, which is going to be, not beneficial for the soil, while plant-based biopesticides are going to be more better, you know, counterparts compared to the synthetic chemicals. Together, waste valorization and green chemistry are fostering a circular bioeconomy where waste becomes a resource. So no longer we are going to treat waste as a waste. It is now going to be a resource. Farming practices are becoming more cleaner and more sustainable in nature. This integrated approach strengthens the soil quality and health, reduces the dependency on foil-based agrochemical, fossil-based agrochemicals, and aligns agriculture with global food security and climate issues. Now, the last part where we talk about the AI usage, where AI driven predictive analytics for crop management. So now we know artificial and intelligence is very much hyped, but how we can utilize it? Can it be only utilized in few sections? Can is there any scope in the area of agriculture? Yes, there is a scope. So AI has become a very powerful tool in modern agriculture by enabling predictive analytics that guide farmers in making informed decisions. Machine learning models will analyze vast data sets such as weather forecasts, soil nutrient profiles, satellite imagery, and historical yield records. Okay, so all these feeds will be there in this data to predict what type of crops can be growing here much better, to predict the crop growth patterns, what can be the possible pest outbreaks, and what could be the optimal harvest time. So all these information, if we feed the previous data into the system, we can get it. That's what we call it, AI driven predictions. By integrating these insights, farmer can anticipate challenges before they occur, adjust planting schedules, and optimize resource allocation. So this is very important because they didn't get much time to think for a solution. But if we do the prediction well in time, they will get more time to think of solutions, to think of whether they should plant it now or they should plant it 1 month later when the situation will be much better, when the climate is going to be little better. So all these informations will be taken care. This proactive approach reduces uncertainty, stabilizes yield, and ensures that agriculture adapts to climate variability and market demands. So there are IoT sensors and drones for real-time monitoring. The Internet of Things and drone technologies provide farmers with continuous real-time monitoring of their fields. IoT sensors embedded in soil measures moisture content, pH, and nutrient values, while drones equipped with multispectral cameras capture aerial images to detect crop stress, disease, or pest infestations. These technologies allow for precise mapping of field conditions, also enable site-specific interventions rather than blanket treatments. Okay, so depending upon which particular site is requiring more attention, we will give accordingly the interventions in that area, instead of giving it to the entire 10 acres of field where the entire field must not require it. For example, drones can identify water stress zones in a field, guiding targeted irrigation, while sensors can alert farmers to nutrient deficiency before they impact yield. So this integration of real-time data ensures efficient farm management and reduce wasteful practices. Precision irrigation and resource optimization, where precision, we know about precision medicine, so now also we have precision agriculture, which emphasizes the judicious use of resources, be it water, fertilizers, and pesticides, through advanced technologies. Precision irrigation system, often guided by sensor data and AI algorithms, deliver water exactly where and when crops need it. minimizing over irrigation and conserving scarce water resources. Because many times, over watering also damages the crop. So it should be done as much as it is required. Variable rate technology applies fertilizers and pesticides only in required zones. It may happen that in a 10-acre land, only a part of it is more prone to infection, other part is not prone to infection. So why to apply fertilizer each and every section? It is not required there. Reducing chemical runoff and environmental damage. This resource optimization not only lowers input costs but also enhances the sustainability by protecting soil health and biodiversity. By combining the artificial intelligence, IoT, and precision tools, farmers achieve high productivity with fewer resources, aligning agriculture with global sustainability goals. To summarize today's session, I'll finally conclude by saying that I already talked about how biotechnology is going to be an important transformative force in the area of modern agriculture, focusing on the tri-pillar framework that integrates genetic engineering, microbial and environmental biotechnology, and digital precision tools. The first pillar highlights the development of stress-tolerant high-yield crops, biofortification for nutritional security, and molecular diagnostics for plant disease management. The second pillar emphasizes microbial solutions such as biofertilizers, biopesticides, and waste valorization through the usage of green chemistry, which collectively enhances the health of soil and reduces chemical dependency. The third pillar showcases the digital and precision agriculture, where AI driven analytics, IoT sensors, drones, and precision irrigation optimize resource use and improve sustainability. So, all these together create a synergistic model that addresses global challenges related to food insecurity, climate stress, and environmental degradation. So, with that, I'll conclude today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.